Really don't know who you are yet, don't just run to another city, because it's not the city, it's you. It's not the location on planet Earth, it's you.
You might suck in every city.
Yeah.
So you have to work on yourself.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
That's the takeaway.
You got to figure out.
Today's episode is sponsored by Gator Cases. Guitarists, like any other musician, value the advantages of proper protection for their gear. Guitars, amps, effects, and accessories all need safe transport and storage. Luckily, Gator's got you covered. Who were some of the people when you moved here that were in the prime of their careers that you were looking up to?
Well, like my friend Tom Bukovac, and guys like Rob McNally, who, I'm talking about session guitar players, because that's what my world is guitar. And of course, we'll get into some other things if you want to about kind of like how, kind of building some career and being diverse and all those things that we were kind of leading up to here. But, those guys are career guitar players and they're session musicians. And so when I moved to Nashville, the brass ring was being like the big session guy. And you feel like, well, that's who everybody's talking about. And he's considered the best, or, he being any given person in that decade or whatever. It was Brent Mason. It was Reggie Young. It was, Tom Bukovac. It's Rob McNally. It's like all these guys that are doing, these big records and winning ACM Guitarist of the Year, CMA Awards, and all that stuff. And so I chased that for a minute and had a little run of doing some sessions, and I'll still do some recording and stuff, but I wasn't really good at that. That wasn't my bag. I wasn't good at being a chameleon and keeping up with all these different popular, forms of music. And my brain just wasn't wired that way, and I didn't learn how to do that, And so I realized that that was I had to learn that going down that path of chasing and being pressured in a way put on by myself of living in a town like this, where if you come here and you really don't know who you are yet, don't just run to another city, because it's not the city, it's you. It's not the location on planet Earth. It's you.
You might suck in every city.
Yeah.
So you have to work on yourself.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
That's the takeaway.
You got to figure out who you are. And it took me 4 or 5 years. I said I worked on that for 10 or 15 years. Well, yeah, weaving through that. But there was a good 3 or 4 years where I was really like, I'm going to get all these pedals and I'm going to get these amps and all this shit, pedal session stuff. And I had a little run of doing some sessions on Music Row. But, man, I wasn't good at the politics. I wasn't good at...
What are the politics? What do you have to do to politic in those sessions?
I wasn't good at telling people their songs were great every day when I didn't think they were great. Because to me, my integrity it's all about the music, and it really is. I mean, I've been lucky to build an awesome career here, and a very satisfying one. And at this point, happier than ever, because and it's taken a long time, but to get everything under one umbrella where you are kind of in charge of your own schedule, you're doing the things that you've built that allow you to make a living and not sacrifice your artistic integrity. And so when I see young people in Nashville, I'm going to be 46 years old February 3rd, which is coming up in less than a month. When I see young people, and I can say that now, even though I'll always be young at heart, but when I see like a young guitar player or a young musician or a songwriter or an artist in Nashville that's 20, in their early 20s, and they've already kind of figured out who they are, and they're just writing songs and making great music for them, that there's nothing more satisfying in the world. I love seeing that. It's so inspiring, because I'm like, man, this person, it's like, yeah, man, you want to root for them and be a cheerleader, because you're like, they've figured it out, and they're not letting anything steer them away from that. And those are the ones that are going to end up being successful, not only in business and in their music careers, but in life and their own happiness, And so the ones that come to town, and this is kind of a, broad statement, exaggerating or to emphasize a point, but there's been a lot of people that have blown in and out of Nashville, and they don't commit, and they go to New York for 6 months, and then they come back and they're here for a minute, and they might do some recording, and they complain about this isn't good enough for them or whatever. Then they go to Austin, then they go to LA, and they never really land anywhere. They're kind of running from something, and we know that. And so when you come to Nashville and you can really commit to this town for a while, those are the people that we end up forming these amazing relationships with, because we're kind of like all part of this. It's not a club, it's an alliance, it's a community. It's really a community. And we know where we fit in the food chain, and we're not jealous of anybody, and we're not competing for anything. It's like once you get past all that shit that I had to go through, then you come out on the other side of it, man, and you're nothing but just inspired at that point. And so I'm not saying I'm doing anything incredible, but for what I do in my little corner of the guitar world, I'm doing exactly what I came here to do, and it's extremely satisfying. So that was another point there that I was going to make, but I can't remember what it was.
Okay, but how do you think about, because you mentioned it, how do you break down your business? And you do the guitar courses with Artist Works, you tour, you record, you play with other people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about those things strategically, or do they all just kind of happen and you schedule them and you go?
Yeah, kind of just go. So I had 2024 was an awesome year. I mean, it was really busy. It was exhausting, but man, we did a lot of stuff in 2024. And so with that momentum, with the record that I did with Uncle Larry, Tom Bukovac, we did the record in stereo, and we played some live shows, and we did some stuff with the trio, and there was a nice, well-rounded thing in 2024 that started growing in 2023. And so obviously, those things are kind of sequentially growing, hopefully. But so towards the end of 2024, when we were looking back on that year, and kind of looking at, okay, well, what's 2025 going to be like? The calendar started filling up. And so, okay, well, there's some, rolling into 2025 after a nice little holiday break. I mean, shit, it's slammed rolling into 2025 with some really fun stuff. I'm leaving, and we didn't really plan that. Nothing's booked, more than a couple months ahead of time. Some education things and some clinics and stuff like that. There's a few little spots on the calendar that are earmarked for those things. But I mean,
so you're making this up.
Yeah,
you just go week by week.
You're going week by week, and you're not really looking. And somebody said this, I think it might have been Dan Dugmore on one of Uncle Larry's videos. And he goes, look, musicians, if you look at the calendar, you're going to freak out because there's nothing booked ahead of time. But if you look back, you'll see that all those years you've worried about were all ended up being full, And so, I just kind of go with blind faith, man. I try to go with things that I want to do. Don't make more work for yourself that's not productive. Keep your focus, but don't get rigid. Let things come from the peripheral. If you're too laser focused and you're too planned and you're too analytical about your music career, then you're eliminating things coming in from the peripheral. And so I want random shit to come in. I'll thrive on that. It's like, hey man, I want the random phone call from somebody to, hey man, let's go down to, let's go to Key West and do a private party. Hell yeah, absolutely, man. Let's go do it. So it's just doing stuff now that's going to be fun, and still working hard. I mean, there's a lot of music yet to be made. There's a lot of projects. There's a lot of educational things that we're looking at doing that we haven't done yet. And, the list of projects will never end. And that's what being a creative or, owning your own business, really. It has nothing to do with the arts and music. It's anybody that owns their own business. If you're passionate about making candles, then you're always thinking about that. You're not working at a 9-to-5, more, conventional American work week, where when you get off at 5:00 from working, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but, say you work at Office Depot or something, not that there's anything wrong with that at all, but probably you're not thinking about ways that you can help Office Depot streamline their business when you wake up at midnight or 4:00 in the morning. But if you own your own business and you wake up in the middle of the night, the first thing you're thinking about is some sort of idea or something that you can do or something like that. And you might even have a notepad by your bed where you wake up and have an idea and you're writing this stuff down. So a career with something that you're really passionate about is with you 24 hours a day for the rest of your life. It's not something that you want to forget about at 5:00 every day. and go to the bar and drink, 10 beers to forget about it. And that's why guys like, and I use these names because these are friends of mine, and those are the best examples I have, and I see it in them, and it's inspiring. But I've known John Oates for 20 plus years. Billy Gibbons has become a really good friend in the past couple of years, and man, these guys they could have, all those guys, Vince Gill, any guys that are older that have had an amazing career, epic career, they could have called in a long time ago. 20 years ago, they could have called in and gone, you know what, man, I'm retiring, I'm done. But they don't. And they're still going, and they're still as excited about it as ever.